In a tower shrouded by twilight, a love story unfolded, woven from strands of golden hair. A handsome prince, drawn by an enchanting voice, found his way to a hidden maiden named Rapunzel. Night after night, he would call to her, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," and she would let her magnificent, long braids fall from the window for him to climb. Their secret meetings were a beacon of hope in her lonely world, a whispered promise of a life beyond the stone walls. But shadows lurked where love bloomed, and a jealous heart watched from the darkness. The sorceress who had imprisoned Rapunzel, the cruel Gothel, was not one to be deceived for long. This is the 10th chapter in our tale, where love is tested by cruelty, and hope must wander through the wilderness before finding its way home. One fateful evening, as Rapunzel innocently spoke of how much easier the prince was to pull up than the old sorceress, Gothel's suspicion turned to furious certainty. But the secret was out. In a fit of rage, she grabbed a pair of sharp shears, snip, snip. The sound echoed in the stone room. Rapunzel watched in horror as her glorious braids, her connection to her love and the outside world, fell to the floor like severed lifelines. With a cruel laugh, Gothel held the shorn tresses, her mind already spinning a wicked trap. Rapunzel's heart shattered, not just for the loss of her hair, but for the danger she knew was coming for her beloved prince. That very night, she was cast out, banished from the only home she had ever known, driven into the desolate, unforgiving wilderness to fend for herself. Her world had collapsed in a single, brutal moment. As dusk settled, the prince arrived, his heart full of anticipation. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," he called out, his voice filled with love. He watched as the familiar golden braid was lowered from the window and began his ascent, eager to see his love. But as he climbed, an unsettling feeling crept over him. The weight felt different, the usual gentle sway was gone. Reaching the top, he pulled himself over the windowsill, expecting to fall into Rapunzel's embrace. Instead, he was met with the menacing glare of the sorceress Gothel. "You came for your songbird," she sneered, her eyes blazing with malice. "But the cat has got her, and she sing no more." Her words hit him like a physical blow, a chilling premonition of the tragedy that had unfolded. Before he could even process the horror, Gothel shoved him with all her might. The prince lost his grip, his world turning into a terrifying blur as he plummeted from the high tower. He didn't land on soft grass, but fell into a thicket of sharp thorns that lay at the base of the tower. The piercing branches stole his sight, plunging him into a world of darkness and agonizing pain. The sorceress's cruel laughter echoed from above as the prince lay broken, and blinded, his dreams of a future with Rapunzel now a seemingly impossible memory, lost in a world without light. His hopeful journey had ended in a nightmare. While the prince was lost to darkness and pain, Rapunzel faced her own desperate struggle. Alone and heartbroken in the vast wilderness, she wandered aimlessly. Every rustle of leaves sounded like a threat. Every shadow held a new fear. The world she had only dreamed of was now a harsh and lonely reality. Days blurred into weeks, and weeks into months. The despair was a constant companion, a heavy cloak she couldn't shrug off. She mourned her lost love, believing she would never see her prince again. Yet, within this despair, a tiny seed of resilience took root. She discovered she was not entirely alone. She was carrying the prince's children. This new purpose gave her a reason to fight, to survive not just for herself, but for the new lives she now nurtured. Meanwhile, the blinded prince began his own agonizing journey, guided only by his memory of Rapunzel's voice and the unwavering love in his heart. He stumbled through the world. He wandered through dense forests, his hands tracing the bark of trees, and across scorching deserts, the sun beating down on him without mercy. He ate whatever roots and berries he could find, his once fine clothes reduced to rags. Many who saw him took him for a mad beggar lost to the world. But he wasn't lost, he was searching. He was listening, always listening for the one sound that could lead him out of his darkness, the beautiful, enchanting song of his lost Rapunzel. It was a quest fueled by pure devotion, a testament to a love that refused to be extinguished by cruelty or despair. Years passed. Deep in a secluded part of the wilderness, Rapunzel had built a new life. She had given birth to twins, a boy and a girl, and raised them in a humble cottage she made with her own hands. She taught them the ways of the forest, and her days were filled with the simple joys and hardships of motherhood. Though she often felt a deep pang of sadness for the life and the love she had lost, her children were her sun and moon, her reason for being. She would often sing to them the same beautiful melodies she had once sung from her tower window. Her voice filled with a bittersweet mix of sorrow and love, would drift through the trees, a lonely but beautiful sound in the quiet wilderness, a song of survival and enduring hope. After 7 long years of wandering, the prince's relentless search finally led him to that very part of the wilderness. He was weary, his body scarred and his spirit nearly broken, but his love had not faded. One day, a faint, familiar melody reached his ears. It was a voice he had never forgotten, a song that had been the guiding star in his long, dark night. He followed the sound, his heart pounding with a desperate hope he hadn't felt in years. The voice grew stronger, leading him through the trees until he stumbled into a small clearing. And there she was, Rapunzel. She was no longer the girl in the tower, but a woman, her face etched with the story of her survival. And beside her stood 2 small children. He called her name, his voice thick with emotion. Rapunzel turned, her eyes widening in disbelief. It was him, her prince. He was alive, but she could see the scars and the sightless gaze of his eyes. They rushed into each other's arms, a torrent of unspoken words, shared pain, and unending love passing between them in a single, powerful embrace. Rapunzel began to weep, tears of sorrow for his suffering and tears of overwhelming joy for their reunion. As she held his face in her hands, two of her tears fell upon his eyes. A miracle unfolded in that humble clearing. As her tears of pure love touched him, a warm light seemed to spread through his vision. The darkness that had imprisoned him for 7 years began to recede. Slowly, miraculously, his sight returned. The first thing he saw was the face of his beloved Rapunzel, more beautiful than he had ever remembered. Then he saw his children for the first time, the living symbols of their enduring love. The years of pain and separation melted away, replaced by a profound and overwhelming sense of peace and wholeness. The family, now complete, left the wilderness behind, walking hand in hand toward the prince's kingdom and a brighter future. Their story teaches us that even in the deepest darkness, the light of true love and unwavering hope can guide us home and even create miracles. Thank you so much for joining us for this chapter of our fairy tale series. If you enjoyed this story of love and perseverance, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more magical tales. We'll see you in the next story.